third degree ritual. These people use symbolism and code to communicate with each other, showing their dominance over the world. You'll notice that the pyramid and the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill is the exact same as the British intelligence service, MI5. This is a display of power. They're saying they control these two countries. Thus, they control the world. Now, one of the satanic Illuminati families that controls the world are the Rockefellers. In 1921, David Rockefeller founded the Council on Foreign Relations, which is the promotional arm of the ruling elite in the US. This is meant to control the US from behind the scenes. Now, David Rockefeller wrote a book called Memoirs in 2002. He said something striking. He said, quote, "We wield over American political and economical institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political structure, one world if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it." David Rockefeller was the co-founder and is the honorary chairman of the infamous Trilateral Commission. In June 1991, addressing the Trilateral Commission, David Rockefeller said the following: "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards world government." Co-founder of the Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg attendee, and high-ranking Freemason of the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, Zbigniew Brzezinski, said the following in 1970, quote, "I have no doubt that the world government will appear in our lifetime. The necessary requirements for final globalization is a continuous regionalization, because that way we move toward larger, more stable, and more cooperative units," unquote. These people are Illuminati, and they all have a common goal, which is a one-world government fascist system.
Now, if you've ever heard any of our call-in shows, you know that we have people that think about the conspiracy theories of people like you. You would be a poster child for these people because you have served on the board of the Council on Foreign Relations. You helped start the Trilateral Commission, and you've been to the Bilderberger groups.
At the Bilderberg meeting in Baden-Baden, June 6th through 9th, 1991, which saw the debut of Bill Clinton, who was virtually unknown at this time outside of Arkansas, had spent 3 days with the Rockefellers and the elite, and then barely 2 months later he had been nominated as presidential candidate for the Democrats, and another 16 months later he was President of the United States of America. Talk about corruption. The Bilderberg meetings were started by Joseph Hernam Redinger, a 33rd degree Freemason. In 1955 he started the European Community Initiative, which ultimately led to the EU. Now, during the 1980s, the Freemason Romano Prodi was a member of the Bilderberg Steering Committee. In 1999 he was appointed President of the European Commission. High-ranking Freemason José Manuel Barroso was in spring 2004 appointed new President of the European Commission.
Sometimes I like to compare the European Union as a creation to the organization of empires. The empires.
Freemason Wim Duesenberg was treasurer of Bilderberg since 1982. In 2004 he was appointed head of the European Central Bank. On November 18, 2002, the EU Commission announced that the 10 new member states would be admitted on May 1st of the year. May 1st was the day the Illuminati started. May 1st, 1776. People who are in positions to recognize the elements of Satanism have noticed the similarities between Satanism and Freemasonry. Anton Sander LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, wrote a book called The Satanic Rituals. LaVey describes the nefarious satanic ritual known as the Ceremony of the Stifling Air. He notes that the exact same ritual is embodied in the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, and I quote, "The original Templars' rite of the fifth degree symbolically guided their candidate through the Devil's Pass, in the mountains separating east from west. At the fork of the trail, the candidate would make an important decision where he might dwell in Satan's household. A striking American parallel to this rite is enacted within the Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, an order reserved for 32nd degree Freemasons. The nobles have gracefully removed themselves from any implication of hearsay by referring to the place beyond the Devil's Pass as the dominion where they might worship the Shrine of Islam," unquote. The Satanic Rituals, page 56. To be a Freemason, you have to swear oaths of secrecy in your rituals. The penalties for breaking the oaths are horrible. Enter apprentice or first degree swears if he breaks his oath, he will get his throat slit from ear to ear and tongue torn out by the roots, and then your body buried. Second degree or fellowcraft is getting your heart cut out and then your body getting fed to wild beasts. Third degree or master mason is having your body severed in two, then having your body burned to ashes. While Aleister Crowley was writing about satanic sacrifice, child abuse, and bestiality, he was being awarded the highest degrees of Freemasonry. He was more than just a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason. He rose to the 97th degree of the Rite of Memphis and Mizraim. Crowley's disturbing practices of bestiality, child sacrifice, and ritual abuse earned him the reputation of the wickedest man alive, but this didn't stop the flood of Masonic honors that were heaped upon him. He said, quote, "I possess more exalted titles than I have ever been able to count. I am supposed to know more secret signs, tokens, grips, passwords, and grand words than I could learn in a dozen lives. An elephant would break down under the insignia I am entitled to wear," unquote. The Confessions of Aleister Crowley, page 684 and 685. Now, Crowley also wrote about bloody sacrifices in his book Magic in Theory and Practice, page 95, instructing the reader that, quote, "The animal should therefore be killed within the circle, or the triangle, as the case may be, so that the energy cannot escape. But the bloody sacrifice, though more dangerous, is more efficacious, and for nearly all purposes, human sacrifice is the best. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most satisfying and suitable victim." Sometimes whole lodges are satanic. For example, the Grand Orient d'Italia rented Palazzo Borghese in Rome in 1893. 2 years later, due to a dispute about the rent contract, the Freemasons had to vacate parts of the palace. The representative of the owner, the Duke of Borghese, undertook an inspection. The newspaper courier Nazinal stated that the room was locked. The inspectors had to threaten to bring police before they were allowed to enter the room. The whole room had been converted into a shrine to Satan. The walls were covered with red and black silk, and a tapestry with a woven depiction of the devil was on the wall. Now, some ignorant Freemasons will claim that the oaths are only symbolic and that you will never get killed for talking about the lodge, but that's not the case. Roberto Calvi was a P2 Lodge Freemason. He was also manager and chief owner of the Ambrossariano Bank. On June 18, 1982, he was found hanged beneath Blackfriars Bridge on the Thames in London, 4 miles from Chelsea Cloister where he was staying. The official verdict published by Scotland Yard was suicide. In addition, it was concluded that he had first been strangled. Calvi, called God's banker, had just prior threatened to expose the P2 role in the bank crash. Later on, the ordinary police took over the investigation and concluded that it was murder. The day before Calvi's death, his secretary, Grazilla Corocher, quote, threw herself out of her window of the 4th floor of the bank. And on October 2nd, 1982, another bank employee, Giuseppe Pelucia, jumped out of the window of the bank and committed quote-unquote suicide. On October 5th, 2005, 5 people were charged with Calvi's murder. On June 6, 2007, all 5 were cleared by the court of murdering Calvi due to insufficient evidence. The court ruled that it was murder, not suicide, but no one was sentenced. Now, one of the most vicious Masonic presidents of the U.S. was Harry S. Truman. He was Scottish Rite, York Rite, Knights Templar, and he was Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Missouri, 33rd degree. In a radio speech in